We are the Knights of Awakening.
Hello, good morning and evening. We are the Knights of Awakening, broadcasting from our corner of the universe to yours. I am your host, Knight Justin, reaching out to all of you, our brothers and sisters, wherever you may call home. Hello out there, welcome to the Knights of Awakening radio program. I'm your host, Knight Justin. Today we continue in the series with The Road to Recovery and New Beginnings, Part 3, Mindfulness-Choose to Participate. In the last episode, I talked about gratitude and how easily the people and moments in our lives can become just things in the background. I shared how I personally fell into this trap and how I was snapped back into reality. If you have not listened to Part 1 and Part 2, please go check out those episodes first. If you are new to the Knights of Awakening, check out our Facebook page. And if you like what you see here, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. You can find relevant links to the accompanying blog post for this episode, as well as how to find us on Facebook and anywhere else we have a presence in the description below. Today's episode will be exploring mindfulness and its importance in our daily lives. In Part 2, I talked about gratitude from my own personal perspective. I was snapped into the moment and forced to participate alongside the other players. Being laid up had forced my contemplation and participation in the moment and in the series of moments that made up the entire incident. Being in the state of mindfulness requires active participation. We can choose to participate actively and fully in the moments that make up our lives, or you can be like me, forced into participating. One way or the other, active participation is mandatory. It can be very easy to fall into a trap of numbers. We count numbers on a clock and dates on a calendar. Not that there is anything wrong with that. I mean, these numbers serve as an important function as they sync us together with each other and with the important stuff in our lives that we need to do and the places we need to be. But as we start to focus on the tick marks rather than the details, then we start to be less and less aware of the important details of our lives. It's easy to do because we become so busy day to day, paying our bills, working, taking care of our family and friends, fulfilling our commitments, and so on. We put so much on our plates that it becomes very difficult to devote quality time to the individual moments in our lives. Just like falling into a trap of numbers, these are realities in our world that we are a part of. These are necessities of everyday modern life. So how do we navigate modern life and still be mindful and present in the moment? It's not as hard as we might think. Many faiths, philosophies, and life paths teach, promote, and practice mindfulness. Most of the time it's practiced through different forms of meditations and prayer, as well as many different types of practical exercises. Now, if you're listening to this broadcast, I would assume that you've been taught and practiced at least one form of meditation, prayer, or some sort of practical exercise along the way. If I presume too much about you, then my suggestion is to search out different ways and methods until you find one that works great for you. We all have our preferred methods that we use, teach, and practice with. Not any one method is foolproof, and not every method will work for everyone. Practices such as meditation can prove to be difficult for many at first. I mean, it certainly was for me. It takes practice and dedication just like any other skill that you may want to learn and practice. One thing I always tell people who are having trouble with it is to keep in mind even just a few minutes of meditation versus no meditation at all is transformative and will open up a whole new world that you never knew existed. For me, when I started learning meditation years ago, I had so much trouble just sitting still. I had a lot of trouble focusing on my breath and emptying my thoughts. I turned to guided meditations to help me through the process. Eventually, I moved on to more traditional forms of meditation. I had searched the internet looking for the perfect guided meditation, and I tried so many of them. Not that any of them were bad, but they just didn't quite have what I needed. So I decided to make my own guided meditation. I wrote my own script and recorded my voice and added music with Audacity. It took a lot of tries before I got it right, but this is something anyone can do with a little patience and some knowledge of basic editing. If you guys want to see a tutorial on how to do this, just let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. I want to share a few of the methods and practices I use that work very well for me. Before I get to that, I wanted to mention that it's imperative that we all need to take time for ourselves from time to time. We get so busy in our lives doing stuff for others that we forget and even neglect ourselves. If we neglect ourselves for too long, then we find ourselves being of no use to anyone. Mindfulness is a personal and internal process that requires our focus and attention. I practice prayer and meditation on a daily basis. My favorite meditation practice is a walking meditation. A walking meditation uses a different main focus point other than breathing. It uses the action and motion of our feet and body and uses breath as a secondary focus point. When you focus on the motion and movements of your body, it becomes much easier to start to notice all of the other things that are going on around you. For me, when I practice a walking meditation, I start to notice the sort of ballet that's going on around me. More importantly, I start to notice how I fit into that ballet. When I first started practicing my walking meditations, I found very secluded places to walk, such as hiking trails and the mountains and things like that. I found that it was much easier to go to a place like this at first because you have no distractions and it makes it easier to focus in on what you're trying to focus on. As I grew more comfortable, I moved on to parks, zoos, things like that. Eventually I graduated to much more busier places like city streets. This is my favorite type of meditation because it makes me more aware of what is going on around me. And it helps me see that I am part of the sum total of this whole experience. One of my favorite practical exercises that I practice, I had talked about years ago on one of our older KOA shows. I believe the title of that show was How to Handle Gratitude. Now, just to clarify, this might make me sound like a creep or some kind of weird stalker or something like that, but rest assured I am not. I go to a busy place like a mall or park or something like that, and I sit and observe. I focus in on what people are doing, how they are acting, and I also try to reach out and feel what they are feeling. I try to think what they're thinking. I found that not only is this a good exercise in mindfulness, but a great exercise in practicing empathy. To recap, being mindful requires participation. That participation will come in the form of actively choosing to be present in the moment, or being brought into the moment in an instant like I was. There are many different ways to practice mindfulness. Seek out and find the method or methods that work best for you. Practicing mindfulness will impact your life and transform the way you start to see the world and your place in it. Thank you for taking the time to read the blog post and listening to this recorded broadcast. If you like the show and related material, please like and share from our Facebook page. If you enjoyed this video and broadcast, please like and subscribe. I hope you will continue to join me throughout this series. I look forward to reading your comments on here and over at the Knights of Awakening Facebook page. Take care of yourselves and each other out there. And as always, until next time, awaken the night within.